Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second episode of Crunch Time Movie Reviews. Today I will be taking a look at the 2008 Pixar animated film WALL-E. I will be giving a short synopsis of the film, followed by my thoughts on the story, characters, music, and animation. Without further ado, let's get right into the movie. WALL-E is a small robot who is tasked with cleaning up all of the garbage on a so far deserted Earth. One day, however, he is visited by a probe known as Eve, who has been sent to the Earth on a search for life. She locates a plant that WALL-E has and rushes back to the Axion, which is the ship where all of the remaining humans live out in space, and WALL-E follows her as he's become infatuated and fascinated with Eve. Now WALL-E and Eve must override the autopilot of the ship and return humanity to Earth, all while falling into a sort of robot love. Now I'm going to give some analysis and my thoughts on the story. This movie is set up, as I mentioned before, a love story between two robots. Now, while that seems a little bit weird in premise, I believe it works for a couple different reasons. First of all, the humans and robots have kind of swapped roles in this movie. We normally think of robots as being programmed to do one certain task, and they really have no personalities, and they just mindlessly do that thing. However, in WALL-E, that honor goes more to the humans. For a majority of the film, the humans are aboard the Axion, as I said earlier, and they kind of just float around in chairs while never looking up from their screens, constantly just eating and drinking food. They really just follow orders mindlessly and don't ever think for themselves. The robots are really the ones with the personalities in this movie, and we find that out right away in the opening scene. I've talked about this in my previous review, but I really enjoy a good opening scene in a movie. It really just sets the tone, and if a movie doesn't have a good opening scene, it generally isn't a very good movie. And I think WALL-E hits it right on the head with its opening. We open onto Earth, which at this point is a garbage-ridden wasteland. Then we zoom in to find WALL-E. He's the last of his kind that is a trash-compacting robot. But as I said before, he has personality, so instead of mindlessly fulfilling his task like the humans do, he collects trash that he finds to be interesting and brings it back to his house, and he likes to collect things. We also see that he's very curious, and he wants to learn more about how the humans used to live when they were on Earth. All of this is shown to the audience with really no dialogue whatsoever, which I really enjoy. I like when films show me something without directly telling it to my face, like insulting the audience's intelligence by just telling them, like, this is WALL-E, he likes to collect things and is very curious. No, they just show us, which I personally prefer. To recap what I was just talking about, the concept of a robot love story may seem kind of weird in premise, but it's executed, I think, very well in this film. Another key part of the story is obviously the environmental aspect, as Earth is kind of in shambles with no humans living on it, and really no life, next to no life at all. The entire conflict revolves around the plant that Eve finds and brings back to the Axiom, because basically if they find plant life on Earth, it means it's safe to go back, and they can go back and recolonize. However, Otto, or the autopilot of the ship, is following its program, which is to keep the ship in space and not return back no matter what. I'll get into this conflict a little more during the character phase of this episode, but overall, I don't really have any major complaints about the story, as I believe it flows well and keeps the audience engaged throughout. The next thing I will be discussing is the characters and their interaction. I believe this is really the strongest aspect of WALL-E and is what really makes it a quality film. WALL-E is the main protagonist of this film. I've already gone into some detail on WALL-E's character, but WALL-E is really a special protagonist for one big reason. Throughout this film, nearly every other character WALL-E comes into contact with is changed for the better. For instance, the captain and Eve both go through major character changes because of WALL-E. This really sets him up as a terrific protagonist. It is impossible to root against WALL-E. He's kind of like a little kid in the sense that he is incredibly curious and kind of oblivious to the conflict all around him, which makes the audience really rally around him because he just seems so innocent in this kind of large and impossible conflict. WALL-E is able to get the audience on his side with little to no intelligible dialogue as well, which is why I think WALL-E is a great character. Eve is the other main character of the story, and she undergoes a bit more of a character arc than WALL-E. When we are first introduced to Eve, she is simply just following her orders to search for life, and she won't let WALL-E or anyone else get in her way. Once she discovers that WALL-E has followed her back to the Axiom, however, she is still quite upset with WALL-E and tries to send him back to Earth. But as they spend more time together, she begins to warm up to Wally until by the end of the film, she is rushing to save Wally whenever he's in trouble, and she really begins to care about him. I believe that Eve is a fairly solid character, and she adds to the movie in a good way. She's very important for Wally to be able to play off of, which really aids the pacing of this story. The main antagonist of the film is the Axiom's autopilot, also known as Otto. While Otto really isn't evil or a villain since it's just following orders, it does create most of the conflict by trying to destroy the plant and get rid of it so they won't go back to Earth. I don't really have much else to say about Otto, except that it served its purpose well and helped the story move along. Our last major character is the ship's human captain. Like all of the other humans, at the start of the film, he kind of mindlessly completes his task and really has no control over the ship. The robots really run it. However, once he meets Wally, who shows him the plant, his life is changed. Like I said before, Wally really changes the lives of pretty much every character he comes into contact with. The captain becomes fascinated with Earth and the things that happened on Earth before it turned into a wasteland, and he will do anything for the ship to return and be able to live there again. In fact, he is the one that finally stands up against Otto and is able to return the Axiom to Earth. In conclusion, Wally is truly the star of this film, but the other characters do a good job of building the story and helping Wally develop. Now I'll briefly cover the animation. I really don't have all that much to say about the animation, except that it holds up very well for a movie made in 2008. None of the close shots are blocky or seem outdated, and all of the character designs are very nice. Specifically, I'd like to point out the contrast between the dirtiness of Wally and stuff on Earth, and the cleanliness and stark white of Eve and the Axiom is very noticeable, and I think is very well done to really show the contrast between the Earth they left behind and the new life in space. All in all, the animation still looks quite good today, and I think it's up to par with the Pixar standard. Lastly, I'm going to cover the music of this film. The original soundtrack was composed by Thomas Newman, but there are also a few other songs, such as there are 2 recurring pieces from the film Hello, Dolly. These are included because Wally has collected the tape of that film and plays it over many times. Overall, the score is quite good, and I believe it accomplishes the same feeling of contrast that I talked about in the animation section. The music that Wally plays and that when they are on Earth is definitely very different from the music that surrounds Eve and the Axiom, and I believe it creates the same feeling that the animation does, and I really like that. The old movie songs Wally listens to on Earth are far different from the mystic and more out-of-this-world sound of space. To go along with that, I believe that the music was really fantastic in 2 specific scenes. The first one is being the opening. I've talked about how I love opening scenes, and I think the music in this one really helps it out. Put On Your Sunday Clothes from Hello, Dolly is the song that is playing, and it really creates a 50s feel, because that's when the film was made. And that mixed with the visuals of just a garbage heap that is Earth really feels right, I'll just say, and helps develop Wally's character right off the bat. The other scene where the score really excels is the space dancing scene with Wally and Eve. I just believe it gives off the feeling of what being in space would really be like, and the soundtrack adds to that feeling, and I think it just really works well. In conclusion, Pixar's 2008 animated film Wall-E is truly one of their best works. The story flows well, Wall-E is a compelling protagonist, the animation is of high quality, and the music is wonderful. That's why I'm going to be giving Wall-E a terrific 9 out of 10 score. Thank you for tuning in to Crunch Time Movie Reviews, and be sure to leave any suggestions in the comments below. Thank you.